What is going on, guys? CWpoke here, back with a brand new video. Last summer, just before the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon, I made a video speculating what would be next up for the series after the release of the first Gen 7 titles, and those were Diamond and Pearl remakes. If you haven't watched that video yet, I would recommend it just so you have some knowledge to compare to this video. Today, I'm actually going to be sharing some speculation on why I think Diamond and Pearl remakes won't happen, and why I think we may be seeing Kanto in our very near future. FireRed and LeafGreen, games that made history in the series for being the first remade titles in the Pokemon series. Revisiting Kanto, it was a nice throwback to the old Red and Blue days, but this time around I question if FireRed and LeafGreen remakes are actually on the horizon. Instead, I think we may be getting potential sequel-like titles. Now before we dive into this video, remember that this is all just a theory. Nothing in this video will lead to solid conclusions about the next Pokemon titles, but will simply speculate things just for fun. So if you happen to disagree, that is totally okay, and I encourage you to share your opinions on what you think the next titles will be after the possible Sun and Moon rumored Switch port is figured out. And also, this video will contain spoilers to the Sun and Moon endings, so you have been warned. And now without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. In my Diamond and Pearl video, I mentioned that an important thing to look for once Sun and Moon were released would be to keep an eye out for Diamond and Pearl references, just to see how much Sinnoh was talked about in order to subtly hint about future games. And instead, what I noticed is that we got a whole lot of specific region mentioned in the titles. However, it was not Sinnoh, but rather Kanto. From the protagonist moving to Alola from Kanto, to the Kanto exclusive Alola forms, there are a ton of references to the first Pokemon region. But most importantly, in my opinion, is the ending to Sun and Moon's main story. Lily, one of the most important characters, decides that she is going to travel to the Kanto region in order to help save her mother. Other theories point to the fact that she's going to visit Bill, as he has had past experiences fusing with Pokemon. Nonetheless, Lily's adventures out to Kanto leave a lot to be explained in Sun and Moon's plot. In addition, arriving at the Battle Tree, we discover Red and Blue, two famous trainers who have since grown from their original Kanto journeys and are now heading to the Battle Tree. What's important to note here is that they are older than their original Red, Blue, and FireRed and LeafGreen selves, so Sun and Moon definitely takes place after the Kanto titles. So what does this hint? If we do get new Kanto games, they won't likely be remakes, but rather sequels, just like Unova's Black and White 2, with brand new playable characters and a brand new adventure. This would allow for Lily's plotline to be continued and possibly play a big role in the potential FireRed and LeafGreen 2. From a release standpoint, looking at the dates and functionalities of the games also hint which title would be first up for a sequel or remake. While Generation 3 did receive remakes last, next in line just by logical thinking would be Generation 4, which is why so many people want and are hoping for Gen 4 remakes next. But Gen 3 also introduced something that complicates things: remakes. The Gen 3 remakes we received were solely for Ruby and Sapphire, but FireRed and LeafGreen from a release date perspective are actually older than Diamond and Pearl, and using that logic, FireRed and LeafGreen should be up next. But from a hardware standpoint, assuming the next titles would be on the 3DS still, as Nintendo has stated no plans anytime soon to discontinue the 3DS, Diamond and Pearl still can be played, whereas FireRed and LeafGreen need a console with Game Boy Advance functionality. So one game can still be played on the modern consoles while the others can't, which further suggests that FireRed and LeafGreen are in more need of attention at this current stage in the console's lifespan. So if FireRed and LeafGreen do get sequels, what could be some new features to a FireRed and LeafGreen 2? Well, since it is a revisit to Kanto, Game Freak could definitely try to appeal to some of the original fans of the series, who may or may not be super active in the new games, just like another game attempted and succeeded at, Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go initially only featured Kanto Pokemon, and while they have slowly introduced a handful of Gen 2 Pokemon, Go was incredibly successful at taking an older generation, people who had grown up playing Red and Blue, and getting them interested in the series again, even if it were only temporary. FireRed and LeafGreen 2 could have some functionality tied in with the accounts associated with Go, possibly allowing the transfer of Pokemon caught from the app, or allowing you to possibly train and grow those Pokemon through the games itself. It would be pretty cool to see also the 3 team leaders make cameos in the games, possibly as a side story, so we finally could have a way to get those 3 legendary birds in Pokemon Go. Either way, with Pokemon Go's incredibly overnight success, it would be safe to assume Game Freak would like to help move that fanbase over onto their handheld games once again. We could also see some returning features as well as some new ones for Pokemon themselves. Perhaps the study of Z-moves or Mega Evolution have been adopted in Kanto, and we see those features come back with additional moves or forms. So long as Mega Evolution comes back in a more toned down and balanced manner, you guys know I'm definitely going to be happy with that, especially since so many Kanto Pokemon received Mega Evolutions in Gen 6. Or maybe a new evil team could be responsible for creating new forms of Pokemon. We see it a lot in various fan-made games like Pokemon Uranium having nuclear Pokemon, or the in-progress Pokemon Azurite having new crystal forms of Pokemon. Speaking of which, if we do happen to return to Kanto, can we please get a Crystal Onix? My childhood still feels incomplete never being able to capture the Pokemon only seen in an amazing anime episode. Another cool possibility with Kanto sequels rather than remakes is to see how much Kanto has changed since the last time we visited. For example, with Giovanni leaving Team Rocket and Blue being sighted in Alola, Viridian City's gym is in need of a new leader. A cool twist would be someone like Silver taking over the gym as he's turned over a new leaf and truly discovered what it means to take care and work with his Pokemon, proving to be an excellent new leader. Or what about Leaf? The female protagonist in FireRed and LeafGreen was left out of the Alola trip with her whereabouts being unknown currently. While an artist and fan of the series made some excellent artwork to match the guys' Alolan appearances, maybe Leaf didn't travel to the battle tree because someone had to maintain the title of Kanto's Elite Four champion. Battling Leaf at the end of the Elite Four would be a really fun little nod to her successes at the end of FireRed and LeafGreen, and further that idea of the new titles being sequels rather than remakes. But what about the Sevi Islands? New islands discovered in FireRed and LeafGreen that weren't initially in the Red or Blue games. It would be interesting to see Game Freak either scrap these islands and focus on new ones, or rather readdress the Sevi Islands as something like outskirts of Alolan Islands, thereby allowing players another way to capture Alolan forms without having to trade to Sun and Moon, or perhaps even adding some brand new Alolan forms that aren't normally found on the main islands of Alola. Continuing this new form of regional Kanto Pokemon changes would be pretty neat, and the Sevi Islands were useful for finding some Johto Pokemon, so maybe we could finally see Alolan forms reach out to new generations. And speaking of Johto, it is just across the mountains west of Kanto. Maybe we could take a quick trip to that region as well in the new sequels. While it is a stretch as development can only put so much into a game, it would be an incredible addition and could help keep Gen 2 fans at bay for a little while. But I won't ask for too much, instead I'll ask you guys, do you think, especially after watching this video, that Kanto sequels do seem more likely than Diamond and Pearl remakes first? Or do you think Gen 4 will still be the next up in line for a remake title? Or do you think something else entirely will happen? There's always that small glimmer of hope for a Pokemon Coliseum remake on the handhelds. Be sure to discuss it in the comments down below. I'll be keeping an eye out for some cool ideas and opinions right in there. And that about concludes my theory for the next main set of games to come out in the Pokemon series. As a reminder, this video is solely for fun and for speculation, so there's a strong chance none of this happens, but it does lead for something fun to think about. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to smash that like button, and if you are new, be sure to subscribe for regular theories, top 10s, and other fun videos. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.